a few questions for you. Are you aware that the top 10% of income earners pay approximately 8% of their income to municipal and state level taxes?
I am aware that the top 1% of Connecticut income taxpayers pay 36% of the income taxes that are received by the state of Connecticut.
Okay, that was my question. If you could answer my question, please. This is coming from the DRS. Are you aware that the top 10% of income earners pay approximately 8% of their income to municipal and state level taxes?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it again? You read it very quickly.
Sure. Are you aware that the top 10% of income earners pay approximately 8% of their income to municipal and state level taxes?
That sounds reasonable.
Okay. And are you aware that the bottom half of income earners pay between 15 to 25% of their income in municipal and state level taxes?
I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
I assume you're reading from a report.
Yep. This is coming from DRS from last year. And do you think that this is fair or equitable?
I think that we currently rely, as I said, 36% from the top 1%, the top 25% of taxpayers, number of taxpayers, the 25 at the richest end, end up paying over 80%, over 85% of the taxes that are received in the state of Connecticut. I think we have a significant reliance on revenue that we receive from our most affluent citizens.
Okay, thank you. And are you aware that the property tax is the most regressive tax levied in the state?
I don't believe that that's entirely correct based on the most recent tax incident study provided by the Department of Revenue Services.
What is more aggressive?
Honestly, I thought there were some other tax types that were deemed more regressive,
Okay.
but I'd have to review the report.
Okay. And why does the governor's budget cost shift $400 million to municipalities, forcing them to raise property taxes in the face of acknowledging our regressive tax structure?
I believe that to look at the $400 cut in municipal aid that we've proposed, which we have cut from the most regressive form of municipal aid, namely the funding of the teacher's retirement system. So reducing a regressive tax, a regressive aid program is mathematically progressive. So we have reduced the most regressive form of municipal aid in order to balance the budget, because we have a $1.7 billion problem, and we have hit employees hard, we've hit programs hard, we've cut eligibility to human service programs, we've done all these other things. Now, I appreciate that you prefer we raise taxes. We have raised taxes by about $200 million in this budget. So we've done a wide variety of things, many of which are challenging to balance the budget, including a $400 million cut to municipal aid, which has enabled us to also provide new sources of revenue for our poorest communities and to restack the municipal aid that we currently provide in a highly needs-directed way. I think in balance, the municipal aid, the municipal proposal that the governor has put forward is more progressive than anything that this legislature has considered in 30 years.
Oh, okay. Do you think that adding an additional millionaire's tax would bring in revenue or lose us revenue?
I don't believe it would be as effective at bringing in revenue in the long run and at as we would like. I reject the assertions that I've heard from folks periodically in public discourse who argue that raising taxes does not produce more revenue. Raising tax rates does, in fact, produce more revenue. We raised taxes in 2011. It produced quite a bit of new revenue, and we've been using that revenue to support state functions. I'm not going to argue that that the Laffer curve is operative here. It's not. If we raise taxes, revenue will go up. On the other hand, I do think that we have reached a point where if we continue to raise taxes on on businesses and on our most affluent citizens, we risk creating an environment in which our most successful individuals and businesses that are growing will elect to reside elsewhere, which is a concern that I have for the long-term vitality of our economy.
Okay. And are you aware that the top tax bracket in New York and New Jersey is 2 percentage points higher than Connecticut's top tax bracket?
That's just how we would like it to be.
Okay. So you agree that there is room to add an additional rate and have it still be lower than nearby states?
Well, it sounds as though we are only slightly lower than those nearby states. I would prefer to be as much lower than our competitive states as possible. The problem with levying taxes at the state level, especially in a small state, is that individuals and capital and are all mobile in this environment. Frankly, the argument was about whether we should be raising the marginal tax rates at the federal level, I would be entirely on your side. I believe that the privileges of being an American and the opportunities it creates to individuals and businesses are extraordinary, and we should tax those opportunities in order to pay for the government we want. But at the state level, the competitive marketplace among states makes that very difficult to do.
All right, thank you. And just one last comment. I would urge you to read. It's a study that came out in early 2016. It's called the Millionaire Migration Hypothesis. It's a 25-year longitudinal study looking at tax rates across different states, showing that tax rates actually do not affect the inflow and outflow of millionaires, and it always brings in new revenue. But thank you for coming in today.